Good morning, Missouri. I'm Arielle Cadet. Here are your top stories for today. Around 9 p.m. last night, multiple cars were involved in an accident on Highway 63. I talked to parents at Gentry Middle School today who say they're happy police made an arrest, but they question why police didn't arrest Joe after the first school incident last week. Police took the woman in custody earlier. Right behind me, they took her into custody. Law enforcement says that she was an inmate from a different county that was being transported back to prison in Moberly. Here at the Broadway Hotel, they're using more modern methods to get rid of their waste. That man tells me that there was a firewall that blocked the fire from his unit. African Americans account for 10% of the Columbia community, but they account for about 32% of traffic stops. Missouri is the home of two large cities, Kansas City and St. Louis, and Chicago, which is just a state away. What's the difference between THC and CBD? THC is what gets you high. It has a psychoactive element to it. And CBD is more natural. It makes you more calm. That's why you can see it in more natural and dietary supplements. That mother is facing 3 felonies. This is the bathtub where the police say the incident happened. She is now on a ventilator with burns covering much of her body. Prosecutors say they found drugs in the mother's apartment and in the child's system. But the mother's family claims she's innocent and places the blame somewhere else.
It was pretty hairy there for a while because we weren't even sure the baby was going to make it.
Lake Ozark Police Chief Gary Launderville said the scene was very difficult. Sunday night, first responders found the 6-month-old with third-degree burns. Prosecutors blamed the girl's mother, Elizabeth Austin, for leaving the bathwater so hot.
The water heater was set at the maximum possible setting, and so the water was coming out of the tap at over 130 degrees.
Tonight, Austin's aunt and sister-in-law came to her defense.
She's a good mom, and she should not be in jail.
They say Austin was dealing with her 4-year-old child when the incident happened. Crystal Austin says the apartment is to blame for the baby's burns on 33% of her body.
The apartment building ain't got a lock on the water thing, the hot water tank, because there's no way in the world, I don't care, that water should have been that hot.
Heart-wrenching. The officers that were there, my detective responded as well as myself, and you know, anytime you have a 6-month-old baby, it's hard.
The family says they're confident Austin will beat the charges, and they think she'll get her kids back. Right now, those children are in CPS custody. We found a customer who flew into the St. Louis airport. He rented a car for $120. Another passenger took a one-way shuttle that cost him $55. Today, I talked to a travel agent who says these displaced passengers are probably out that money, and the odds of getting reimbursed are slim. Brad Bates went on a business trip in Washington, D.C. on Sunday. On Monday night, he found out the Columbia airport was closed, but heard nothing from his airline. He only found out about it when he read a news report about the airport's week-long closure.
It's going to be closed for a week, and I was supposed to be back on Wednesday.
He said American Airlines was no help.
Said, we can put you into St. Louis. And I said, well, that'd be fine, but how do I get from St. Louis to Columbia? And they said, that's really not our problem. That's on your own dime.
Bates paid about $120 for a rental car to drive from St. Louis to Columbia.
I asked the airline if they would reimburse for the automobile expense, and they said no, that the cost was actually should be on the person because they didn't close the airport.
Travel agents also say they don't think reimbursement is likely.
The only way to get reimbursed from that, they're going to have to go through the airline on their website usually and request a refund directly from them. But I would probably say they probably won't be refunded for those car rentals and shuttle services.
Christian says she wished travel agents were notified about the cancellation so they could better help travelers.
It would have been nice if we would have been notified that this was going to happen, but unfortunately our clients heard it on the news before we did, and that's when they started calling us.
I asked Christian if she thought travelers would have better luck getting reimbursements from the Columbia airport itself, but only in the off chance passengers bought tickets at the actual airport counter. I reached out to the city late in the day about reimbursements and did not hear back. I sat in with frustrated community members upset about the racial disparities in traffic stops. The police department held the meeting because it wants to hear from the community. Interim Chief Jeff Jones says he wants to fix the problem, but he wants to fix the committee first. Although the members of the CPD workforce meeting come from different backgrounds, they shared the same goal: to start a conversation. This was the first meeting the department held with members of the Columbia community. It's in response to 2017 data that revealed possible racial disparities in traffic stops. African Americans account for 10% of the Columbia community, but they account for about 32% of traffic stops. Police stop blacks more than 3 times the expected rate. Interim Chief Jeff Jones says he wants to spark change.
I don't have all the answers as to why that occurs, and in the past we have taken that information, said it was insufficient, and pushed it on down the road. And I don't want to keep kicking the can. I want to get to the bottom of it.
And he says the voices of the community are the only way to get there.
But as I look around the table and see a lot of the officers and see what's going on, I see no group of African Americans that's sitting around the table.
So the meeting ended up with the goal of adding diversity to the committee. But this is only the beginning.
I would like to see a group of people who are willing to have honest, upfront conversations about the data, about the things that affect traffic stops, and to come up with community-wide solutions.
The group spent much of its time tonight looking at ways to add more diversity to the committee. The next meeting is set for March 11th. In the studio, I'm Arielle Cadet, KMU 8 News.